We are live on Facebook, my page, Soldier One Studios Facebook page, Soldier Group page, and we're now live on YouTube and also in the Zoom room. So we'll be right back with Julie Dhara Roberts, Divine Feminine Extraordinaire, in just a second. It's going to allow people time to come in. This is the first of 4 shows today. It's going to be a powerful, powerful day. We've got some powerful guests, beginning with Julie, and I'm looking forward to it. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the first of 5 shows today. We got Julie Dhara Roberts is about to come on. Hello, Sweden. Hello, Denmark. Hello, Ireland. Hello, everybody. And a lot of stuff happening. We're going to bring Julie up in just a minute. We've got some really cool stuff to talk about. I love this lady, and we're going to talk about some of the things that she really puts out there so well. We'll get into that in a minute. But I wanted to cover a couple of things. Hello, Texas, my home state. I wanted to cover a couple of things real quick because I want to. You know what I mean? And that is, just some of the stuff that's going on out there. I mean, we've come all this way to become aware of ourselves and to embody, anchor, and actualize our true power, skills, and abilities. And that's one of the things I love talking to Julie about and what she represents. So it's just my message to my brothers and sisters today. Don't give your power away. I don't give a damn if it's dark propaganda or light propaganda or this movement or this cause or against this movement or this opposition against that. Don't give your power away. We've come too far for this. We are the power. We are the I am soul. Let's get Julie up here and talk to her about some of the things that she's representing and putting out there that are actually contributing to the expansion of the I am soul that we all are and that we're all a part of. Earth to Julie. Earth to Julie. Wait a minute. Are you muted?
I'm back. Yeah, it popped me off and brought me back in as a panelist.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. I got you.
Panelist.
So, ¿cómo está usted, mi hermana bonita?
Hi, Todd. Thanks so much for having me today on this Power Day.
It is a power day. Don't ask me why I know that, but it is a power day. I'm so happy to be talking to you first because I am fit to be tired. I've just about had enough of all this bullshit, to be honest with you. And I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about what's the overlay is. Let's put it that way. I'm going to be frank. I'm not talking about this fucking virus. And I ain't talking about any other virus or any other, all these narratives. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how we are reacting, and I love what you said that I already was trying to get you on the show, but we had stopped scheduling for a while because I had to take a break for about 5 days. But I love what you said on that post. I don't remember the post about the 5G and the 5D and the work that you've been doing. That's what I want to start talking about. But what I was getting at is you have this way of seeing, everybody's not everybody, many people, even the light workers, even the healers, and I'm not taking shots at anybody because they're my friends. Everybody's my friend, but we spend so much time looking at the shit show when you're over here looking at the shift show. You're saying, hey, what about the other end of the spectrum? And that's what I loved about that comment you made and your friends made. So thank you for coming on, sharing space with us. I hope we can do this on as we can be stabilized, we can do this fairly regularly because you've got great information. And just to give everybody a backdrop, I made a post or a meme or whatever, and I said basically F 5G, it ain't got nothing on 5D, something to that effect, which I firmly believe that everything's the same God particle. I'm not saying to agree with me. I'm just saying this is where I'm coming from. We can integrate, merge, transform any and everything. We are made in the image of the Creator. And then you came in and said, yes, me and my friends have actually been working with the towers to utilize them as a transmitter, and correct me if I'm wrong, of 5D, something to that effect. So can you tell me what you and your friends have been doing? And we'll just start from there.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here today. Thanks, Todd, for having me.
Absolutely.
So I want to start with the freedom codes and the freedom broadcast and the freedom network, to use Shannon's, I love that, her name. Yeah. But really what we're broadcasting today is freedom codes. And my story working intimately with the freedom codes goes back to last July. So I'm going to start there in a very real world, everyone can relate application. So on July 5th last year, one of my favorite bands is Fish, and people that know me would either eye roll or be like, there she goes again talking about Fish, but they're like the soundtrack to most of my life / grid working, light working. Yeah. So last year, July, I used to get to go see them a lot, but now I'm in the householder, small kids way, so my times out are more precious and more few. So I got tickets they're playing at Fenway Park in Boston. Even if people aren't Red Sox fans, you've heard of Fenway Park, right? That's like a classic place to go. Mm-hmm. And now they're opening up for concerts in the summer.
Really? I didn't know that.
So they take the whole field and they put seats on it. Wow. And so you're so I was sitting like next to the Green Monster.
Oh, I was going to say, they still have the Green Monster and the,
yeah. So anyway, I splurged a bunch for myself and I bought tickets on StubHub at a pretty premium price. And I got down on the, right by the stage, right by the Green Monster. And so I bought 2 tickets for each show. And one show I was going to bring my soul sister, my bestie, and the next night, my husband. So the first night we both are moms, or we both have kids. We had stuff we had to do, people we had to shuttle places. And we're like, all right, we'll leave my house whenever it's the perfect time. We're going to make it fun and easy. Cause sometimes driving into Boston is different than that. But we're in the zone, and she's my partner in lots of things that are magical in this life. I'm so lucky. So we drove in and we go in. So one of the pressure points sometimes going to this part of town is parking. It's like $50, $60, whatever. So we pull in and we get into Kenmore Square, and we found a free parking spot right outside the venue, right in Kent. We're like, great, free parking spot, meter's broken, we're good. And then we're going to walk to the show, and it's one of these classic Massachusetts July days where it's 90 bajillion degrees out, super humid, and everybody's queuing up to get in. And there's this pack, this mob of humans in hotness, and all kind of pushing to get into this one entrance, because it's not really a concert venue. It's more people come and go for baseball games, right? So then it was just, my friend looked at me and she was like, Julie, I don't think I can stay here. It was just too what's the opposite of freedom? Squished and hot.
Constricted.
And like, yeah. So we, and then somebody had passed out in the middle of the crowd. So there's this ambulance coming and like trying to, like, everybody was acting the way people act at concerts, some of them. So we're like, you know what? There's like a brewery right over there. Let's bust a move, get out of this line. We're going in the air conditioned brewery. We're going to have a beer. We had some poutine. We're like doing stuff. So we're like, it turns out we missed the first 3-5 songs, but it was such a different, it was just such a like simple but different move. I was like, felt like an act of freedom. And one of the songs that Fish plays that I really love is called Free. And they played it, we missed it, but we were like doing the freedom thing. So we go in and like when we after we had our snack and our beers, we walked back in, no lines, no waiting, walked through, got a nice bottle of water, got to our seats, and like the stars and the planets were out. We're like down on the floor of Fenway Park. We're literally right next to the Green Monster. I could post some pictures later, and had a really great show. Even like little things like, you know, we befriended the security guard people so we could dance in the aisle there. Like everybody, things were just like flowing for us. That was super fun. We got in and out really easy. So the next night I'm going again and taking my husband, who's only ever been to one show. And I really wanted to like introduce it to him. And so anyway, we get to the afternoon and it had been so hot and humid and oppressive for a long time. And you could feel when the thunderstorms come in. So they were like rolling in, and I'm not a great highway driver in the pouring down rain and lightning. It's not my favorite thing to do. And so we were like, should we go? Should we not go? Or like, when should we leave? So he was like, I'm going to go take a nap. I was like, all right, like fine, like let's wait for the thunderstorms to come through. And I was looking on my weather thing, and the radar shows like all along the path we were going to drive was like that red, orange, dense. Like I knew what the drive was going to be like. So we're like, all right. So he went up to take a nap. We had shipped off the kids to my mom's house. So we had the house to ourselves. And I was sitting in the wind and the, like all the storm was rolling in. So I I was on my back porch for quite a bit, but then things started to get more intense. There was golden purifier, a turkey vulture, like up above the trees in my backyard. And it was my neighbor's yard actually. And it was just like hovering over this spot. And it was riding the currents, and like I had been taking pictures of all the trees were like, everybody was like, the storm was coming, but this turkey vulture is just like here, just like in one spot for, it felt like 10 minutes, maybe it was 5 minutes, whatever it was a long time. And so I had like cucumbers, I was just eating a snack and like looking out, and I decided to move in as things were like the storm was getting in. So I just sat like inside my slider door and looking out into my neighbor's backyard, right where that turkey vulture had been. I saw lightning hit a tree in my backyard. Like I've never been like you're watching a TV show, like for lightning. Like lightning came in from above, but then I saw it come from the ground. Like these two cords came together and like lit the whole tree up. Like it happened like in this slow motion, total plasma download. You know, if you've ever been that close, I was, 50 feet away from the tree, maybe 100 feet, whatever. Close. So you could feel it in your skin if you've ever been that close to lightning. I was like, whoa, I just got this like plasma lightning download transmission situation. And I was like, all right, that's my, and my husband woke up and he was like, do you want to drive in now? And I was like, I got my show. I just had my show.
Oh, wow.
I just had like, so they do a live broadcast. So we spent extra money to watch it from our living room and on the TV. And like, we just had like, we were like, should we go? Should we not go? And I was also watching on Facebook, and so many of my friends were there at the show. I had been the night before, and even if you've ever been like inside a ballpark. So I was just describing that what's usually just open field, they had packed with seats. So there's tens of extra, maybe 20, 30, 40 extra thousand people. And they were letting people in early, so like this storm is coming over this concert venue, which is an outdoor venue. And I knew that they were going to be packing the people into that little like dark underground zone where you buy the beer and like the ballpark franks. And even last night, we weren't enjoying it not crowded. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not as much as I want to see this band, I'm not doing that to myself, of going and getting trapped. So people were like texting and Facebook posting from inside that zone of how hot and humid and like crowded. And I was like, I'm free.
Mm.
So that was my like freedom code. So this is the same day I know you have Sandra Walter on here a fair amount. And thank you for doing that. I love listening to her reports. This is that same day that she was out in Ridgecrest, California with the earthquake.
Oh, this was
talked about the freedom codes. This is
Yeah.
this is my Boston version.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that I've heard her speak about it. And of course, I never looked too deep into some of the stuff because I just kind of pick up on the energy of it. And I love her. I love her too, very much. The last show we just did was phenomenal a couple of weeks ago. But she talks about the freedom codes. What are the freedom codes?
Well, this, like, why I told that whole story is like any example for me, a simple, like, basic example is like when I make a choice to do it differently in a way that like maybe I would have bound myself in the past to a certain response pattern, to a certain reaction, to a certain action. It's like making a choice, an on-purpose choice in the moment to do something differently to allow you more space, room to breathe, air.
And not being regulated to even any commitments you've made, or not, I don't want to say commitments, but tickets you've purchased or plans you've made, that you can always reset and make a new choice. Is that?
Yeah, it's like, to me, the freedom codes are unlocked in these moment by moment choices.
Yeah.
Of like doing it differently.
And so that's cool. That's very cool. Yeah, man, we've got a broad representation participating with us today. We got people from all over, man. I mean, down under, I thought it was after midnight down under, plus all of Europe,
well, people
Asia.
like the sleeping's a little different.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's a little wonky, isn't it? So
so what does that have to do to answer your question? So you asked me about, it does come around. So the lightning, like channeling like lightning energy, like plasma energy, that like ionosphere. And a lot of people talk about the Schumann resonance. I don't like to, it doesn't speak to me as loud as it speaks to some other people. Like I get more like technical. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of like plasma energy in the ionosphere.
Yeah.
But that, so a few days later, I also going back to Fish, I went to go see them in Southern Connecticut by myself this time. And that was a great time. But then I was down there and there are some sacred sites. So to answer the question about like what I've been doing for the last few years, there are spots. Cape Cod is a spot that has wireless, for one of the first back and forth cross-Atlantic wireless transmissions happened there with Marconi in the early 1900s. And I also follow or research a lot about Tesla's work. So Tesla had his Wardenclyffe Tower was out in Long Island in the early 1900s. So if we talk about like free energy and broadcasting free energy, that's what Tesla was all about.
Yeah.
And just like a really simplistic explanation is a lot of times like what we're broadcasting on right now moves in standing waves, like waves that move like up and down, like what is on the surface of the water.
Yeah.
Tesla was into longitudinal waves or long waves. Like if you imagine a slinky and you pull it apart and you let it like pull, like waves that move in parallel line, not perpendicular line to the direction you're transmitting. And those, so the first style of waves get dampened really easily by mountains, buildings, you know, what distance. So what Tesla was working on is this free energy action. Nobody really knows what he's working on because he was like mostly in his head, but he has written a lot for us to follow. Right? But so he was working on longitudinal waves that would travel further with less dampening over space and time.
Yeah. So more like on a horizontal plane. So there'd be less impediment. Yeah, because up and down. I mean, that seems to be a much broader, and it seems like it'd be slower too, going up and down like that versus.
And then as soon as it loses its amplitude, it loses its power to transmit. So the first time that this kind of came into my awareness was 2 or 3 summers ago. And I know you're a friend of Rick Jewer's. I don't usually I'm not usually part of his tribe or whatnot, but this
Uh-huh.
particular call he put out, like a lot of the stuff is just like not for me. It's in another lane, if that makes sense.
Right. Yes.
But I stay in my lane and do my thing. But this particular call like crossed over from him to my lane. So he put a call out on Facebook 2, maybe 3 summers ago
Uh-huh.
about like dismantling places like Washington, D.C., Vancouver. He was talking about like dismantling what he called mind control tech, blah, blah, blah. So that one, for some reason, like broadcast to me. And I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this. So I was working with that, his exercise that he put out for people. And then a few months later, I was driving by a spot. So I'm one of the gatekeepers for a sacred site here, very local to me, a few miles away. It's a
Uh-huh.
beehive chamber. Maybe we've talked about it before. But I was
Yeah.
driving in that zone and I got this like ping that came like into I could feel it in my temple. I could feel it in my third eye. And I was just driving by and I was like, oh, that's that shit Rick was talking about. I could just feel it. And so I was like, all right, I wanted like from the exercise I had done with him and his group, I was like, okay, we need to neutralize that. And I didn't quite know what that meant or quite how to do it, but I started working with it and playing around with it. So it was interesting when I was driving here today, because I'm at my inner space center. Thanks for getting me out of my house. I've been out of my house in weeks.
No problem.
I even
That's
took a
no
shower
problem.
for you, Todd.
Oh, I thought you smelled different. Just kidding.
I might be wearing a bra for the first, like, I don't think any of March.
Yeah, right.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
going out of the house. I'm getting dressed up. So anyway, the tower thing. And I was realizing when I was driving here today, I was thinking about what we were going to talk about. And I realized it was Easter weekend.
Yeah.
So 2 summers ago or 2 springs ago, 2 or 3, whatever the linear is. So my husband's aunt and uncle and cousins live on the South Shore for Massachusetts residents, like the coast south of Boston. And I live in the center of Massachusetts. So it's about an hour and a half drive. And we were going there for Easter. And my son, who was 8 or 9 then, my daughter and husband fell asleep in the car and I was driving. And so my son and I drove from Worcester, for where we live, or Grafton, into Boston and then down the South Shore, like a pretty congested area. And as we were going, I had been working with the tower that I had felt that like broadcasty thing from here. And so my son and I were in the car and he does this work too. And so we got to this is one of the first times we sort of teamed out loud and talked about it. And I was trying to make it fun because he's, I didn't want it to be like scary or weird for either one of us. But I did do you remember Kids in the Hall? Like, I'm crushing your head. Your head is flat.
Yes.
So he would scan and we would do it out loud together. We would try to scan each tower and be like, is that clearly broadcasting or has that been I don't even want to use the word infiltrated, but we were just scanning. Is that tower a problem? Is that one how is everything going? And we drove past hundreds of towers on this trip, and some of them were neutral, and some of them had a field of distortion around them. So we would do a little crushing the head, and then when we drove to the South Shore, it's quite. My in-laws live in Marshfield, which is pretty close to Plymouth Rock Zone. It's very indigenous, a lot of native people used to live there anyway, and their imprint's still on the land. But there was some of that signature. Anyway, it was just our Easter morning sort of work. It was the first time I had really started working with the towers, and then so if we fast forward to now, I feel like the work that a lot of us were doing 2 or 3 years ago, that was more in the dismantling or actively taking out things, that work is all completed, and all the people that I respect, and it doesn't mean it's all gone, but what we've done is sort of take our job up a level. I think the last time I was talking to you on the show, I was talking about getting a wider view, right? And if we look at this from up in 5D, 9D, 12D, there's a way that we can do it different. That's not even that work that I was just talking about.
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore. That's
it's
my
it's
3 years ago.
Yeah, you've outgrown it.
Yeah.
Or
we all have, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and I agree that's replicated in other processes, modalities. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So like that, the struggle, or what you talked about opening the show of like the against the thing
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
over. And now it's like,
Yeah.
how do we utilize?
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
the Beehive Chamber that I am a gatekeeper for has taught me so much over the last 3 years. Like I just kind of go there and I'm quiet and I listen and I interact with the space and done a lot of things there. But it's aligned to, like when you look through it, it's almost like it's an ancient archaeoastronomy site where it's aligned to the summer solstice. So across the way, there's a hill that has cairns, stacks of stones, that
Mm-hmm.
are markers for all different kinds of things. Solstice, sunset, June, the Pleiades, like each little,
Yeah.
there's a whole stack of stones that each setting of the Pleiades at their heliacal setting. But anyway, this tower that I was talking about that I first started working with is up at the top of that hill. And sort of to me felt like it was dampening the use of that area. Like what, so that like that was a few years of process of like removing the overlays and getting rid of the whatever was going on there and
Yeah.
turning it back on to its full crystalline capacity.
So
And
what?
so part of, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So like people then, I guess it, how to say this well, like it's just something that I do, sort of like that guy in Good Will Hunting. He's like, I can just do these math equations. Like for me, like I can just do this. And I
you know,
realized in the last year, I
but
was
I mean,
like, oh, maybe teaching people how to do this could be a thing. Like, because other
yeah.
people should know how to do this. Not the
Yeah.
dismantling part, but the so the other part that I think for me, and I love the picture that you put on for the show, and you had the eyeball on your third eye.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of pineal projection, like light code, shape, geometries. I sort of like wrap the towers with a projection from the pineal gland that's like out to the tower. And you can wrap things in sacred geometry, in
Yeah.
3D, like light code. And it, so I thought we maybe talk about the platonic solids a little bit. And I brought some crystals up. Are you familiar with the platonic solids?
Am
like
I
Plato?
familiar? Yeah, I know. I don't know about Plato's connection, but I know something about him. I mean, I'm not well versed, but let me just restate something
Yeah.
for you know, just to kind of restate it to cover everybody, because you are you're not super technical. You drop a couple little bombs here and there, but this is very good. I just want to make sure that we keep everybody with us. So from what I'm understanding, in a general way, you being one of many, okay, that in other words, no matter what's put out there, what's constructed and conceived, whatever ill intent it may or may not have, and control mechanisms and programming and all that stuff, you and some people you work with, and I got to believe that it's happening in other parts of the world as well. People like Sandra, you know, are countering, if that's even the right word, because there really is no fight to your point. I mean, are countering, converting, transforming these constructions and I guess essentially consciousness or energetic forces. You are actively and consciously transforming them, converting them, neutralizing them, whatever you want to call it. And that's a very viable force in and of itself that's utilizing what has the most power, the seed of the soul. And two, you're saying now that work's been completed, and now you're moving into another level of work and application. Is that all? That's a lot of stuff I said, but is that?
That's great. Thanks. You should follow me around and like translate. No, that's great. Thank you for it's so nice to hear it back. And
I just wanted to make sure that I
yes. And then so the new way of, I guess the first time I heard this in my like years of training is when I was training in yoga and pranayama breath work.
Mm-hmm.
And they would talk about, so this is true for like Qigong or for yoga or for any breath, holotropic breath work, maybe. I don't even know what that is. It just came out. But so what we were taught then is that, when I'm breathing in, air is like the thicker, more tangible part of what I'm breathing. But the prana or the chi or the life force rides the waves of the breath into the body. It's like the subtle force that sort of tags along, if you will, with the
Okay.
breath. Because so prana and air are two different. One is like a lighter, more subtle force.
Okay.
So in a similar way, like anything.
Now is prana life force?
Yes, prana means life force.
So to me, like when you say that, the breath is more of a vehicle here, right? But the prana to me sounds like, to me, and I'm not a scientist, but like it's like the electromagnetic as part of it. Like it sticks to the breath, is what you're saying, and
yeah,
which I
or
guess is why
it's all one and the same, and it's multidimensional. And I recently wrote up an article about this that I'll link in the comments below after we're done, that talks about the multidimensional you. But that, yes, exactly, like the air would be the physical parameter of what we're breathing in. The respiratory system has a certain function with the lungs and the oxygenating the blood. But yes, that act of you breathing in and out and your lungs pumping, and especially your heart pumping, is also, there's an electromagnetic thing that's happening simultaneously. It's like another layer of it, if you will. So just for my yoga friends, like we call these the koshas, or there's sheaths of being, right? There's like the physical food body sheath, there's the breath sheath, there's the next bloke or kosha, or sheath. So there is the electromagnetic field, which runs the up down, the torus field, some call masculine and feminine, the yin yang. So there's two. Put this up for Morgan in case she's watching. Maybe she'll watch it at some point. Like there's two pyramid, this shape.
That's octahedron.
Probably heard her talk about that. So that like.
Yeah, she puts me in an octahedron when I'm not behaving.
That's your dog. It's a really upgraded high vibe doghouse she's got.
It is. No, actually, she put me in one years ago when I first met her. It was a great.
So going back, so the electromagnetic field exists, or like almost like an incandescent light bulb. This is it has the wire that the electricity goes through, and then there's a magnetic field that electrical flow creates, but then it also creates light, and all that's happening simultaneously. It's just like the light is like the emanation of the electromagnetic field.
I got you.
So that's true for the light bulb, but that's true for you and your body, and for the planet, and for stars. That all kind of works the same way.
Yeah.
But so it seems to me like what Tesla was up to, and why did he build that big tower on Long Island in the early 1900s? Like when he was trying to broadcast maybe he was broadcasting freedom codes, but he was trying to broadcast free energy. But he needed this tall tower to accomplish that, to send it out, and what was below it. Lots of like groundwater. He would make deposits, tunnels. There was like a whole science of what was below the tower, but he needed that to use the earth as a broadcast mechanism.
Right.
So since these towers are already there, someone else constructed them, why not like repurpose them and use them to broadcast our freedom codes? It's like we just kind of, it piggybacks along.
So what you're doing is you and people like you are anchoring in this code, and then you're not just projecting it out from your being, but you're actually utilizing what's at your disposal that works in your favor in tandem and complements the expansion of that broadcast.
Yes.
Very cool.
For sure, there's a lot. It's certainly not just me. I work with a bunch of friends that do the same.
I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, it's great. But I think we keep saying that because anyone anywhere can do it. Some things that are in my geography are like, we have a lot of churches here in New England. So the big steeples, they would always build them at the top of a hill. So like they were closer to God, blah, blah, blah. And, but like you can use flagpoles, you can use church steeples, any tower. I work a lot with, there's a lot of water towers, like town storage water towers that are tops of hills. Yeah, like almost repurposing them into like a light field grid and networking them, connecting them. Like that's all. I want to call them jobs.
That's very
Things.
cool. Very cool. Yeah. 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 So now you were going to talk a little bit about because you've got, I actually copy and pasted. I never look at notes, I'm very spontaneous, but your comments about your announcement. So I want to get to a couple of things there for sure. But you were going to talk about the platonic solids a little bit.
Yeah. So they work in the energy field. So Plato matched each shape, or each shape has a vibrational match to an element. So like the cube, it's hard to, I don't know what's the best way to show it. Can you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just happen to have these crystals, happen to.
Right on. Right on.
But the cube is like, this represents Earth. So I'm trained in a style of healing that's called Satnam Rasayan. Satnam Rasayan is as far as I can tell, is an ancient Sufi technique where you really just relax, allow, use your field to interface and merge with unity field.
Right.
It happened to come through the Kundalini yoga dude, Yogi Bhajan, and he has a certain protocol that I sort of like piggybacked along with a lot of that to learn this technique.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was the one like in the sea of like white turban people. I was the one wearing red and purple in the back, that kind of thing. But I like infiltrated enough to get the info that I needed and came out. But in Satnam Rasayan, we use forms. There's 5 different methods of doing healing, and one is really using geometry. So we all know, like, a lot of cultures use the 5 elements to create balance, whether it's shamanic or like the yoga and Ayurveda use it. A lot of cultures, cross-culturally. So one way you can work with earth element is to hold resonance of a cube. In the chakras have different shapes associated. So this one is water. I know I wrote it up too. Like I should just call it, like, we could call it an isosahedron, but like, should we just call it the triangle thingy?
Yeah.
Just a little more. This is like all triangles. Triangle.
Now what is that? What is that? What is that called?
I'm gonna pull it up because I was like, I gotta remember. Like
the reason I say that is
isosahedron.
Okay. Because I saw that shape a couple of weeks ago. I won't go into it. But
is that a good way to see it?
Yeah. I kept
trying. So it's equilateral triangles. They define these shapes by like a vertex is the point part, and how many triangles or how many of those shapes are touching at the vertex. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. But this is triangle after triangle. Kind of like a soccer ball, but all triangles.
Definitely do a show just on this subject. Did you watch that show with Eric? Sonic Geometry. Eric.
No, but I will go back and look.
Oh my God, you have to watch it. Okay. I might have even got the name of his, but he's been on Ancient Aliens. He's phenomenal. The dude's phenomenal. He's very tight with Jen Reynolds, but yeah, he had a whole. You would have been fascinated. You need to go back and find it.
Okay, I will for sure. Thank you.
Eric. Why can't I remember his name?
Well, if we stop talking about it, it'll pop right back in.
So okay. So
do you want me to keep going with these, or do you want to see all 5?
No, because I can see that's a whole show, and I'd love to do one.
Okay.
I'd love to do one on it because Eric. It's Eric Stephen Rankin, and I would love to do. Yeah, I would love to do a show on this because I have a lot of questions on what you're pulling up here. But if I start asking them, even we're gonna go over and keep you out of the house a little bit longer than an hour, but we wouldn't even have enough time if we go an hour and a half. So I want to ask you about this. So you mentioned in your announcement, you mentioned a few things, okay? And I want to make sure we get them all.
Well, that was an ambitious list we don't have to get them all.
No. Well, I think we can get them all. If
Yeah,
we can
okay.
we can go an hour and a half. I'm gonna be sitting here all day long anyway. So as long as I have a 30-minute break, I'll be okay. So interstellar, intergalactic communications.
Oh yeah. See,
What
this is why I take notes.
what are you referring to? And let
I
me start.
had,
Let me
I
start
had
by. Huh? Go ahead.
sorry.
No, I
What
was
do
just gonna ask you, um, if you could, because I don't fully get everything all the time, and I don't really go investigate. I don't know why. So the term
Because you're
interstellar.
doing like 6 shows a day and you don't have
Yeah.
time, dude.
So, but the term interstellar, number one, and so you're talking about interstellar, intergalactic communication. So I'd love for you to talk about this subject, but before you talk about it, could you just define for the dummies like me, what does interstellar mean?
Yeah, why did I write that? Because what I maybe was going to write, like when you say star family,
Yeah.
it's the same thing.
Okay.
Like star codes or light
Okay.
codes coming from stars.
Okay. That's
I was out
just
in the
your.
backyard with my,
Yeah.
I said interstellar because I feel like we're bringing in information that's from much further, like,
So what? But what?
not just from our galaxy. It's from
What's
like,
the definition of interstellar? Yeah. What is the definition of interstellar?
I'd say
Or-
space between celestial bodies, space between
Okay.
stars.
So it's out. It's out in the cosmos, basically.
Yeah.
Is there any relation to the term interstellar and the correlation with the inner body, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
Because outer space is inner space. If you
Okay.
start from your skin,
Yeah.
and you work outward, or you start from your skin and work inward, it's the same above and below, within, without.
Okay.
So you really do get to like all the stars, planets, cosmos is all in your inner space.
Yeah.
So
I totally.
you're tapping simultaneously in, like if you get to like how an oxygen atom has a nucleus and a electrons spinning around it, like the sun has planets spinning around it. So like the solar system and a cell, an atom in your body is like microcosm, macrocosm of each other.
Okay. I got you.
Does that answer your question? Is that what you meant?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, in terms of the interstellar, intergalactic communications, you're saying that's just a way of saying the codes that we receive, the communications that we have, visitation, anything along those
Yeah.
lines. Okay.
All the stuff you've been talking about extra heightened the last few months. Like I've
Yeah.
been watching shows and the people showing up in your space and in your bedroom and your dream time and your astral time.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. All right.
So I was in my backyard with my trees and my birds a couple weeks ago. And, my family has been in various waves of recalibrating to this global reset we're all in. But I had a moment out there and I was like, it was really nice. But I had this feeling like everything's so quiet because people are all home and still. And I just had this like really strong, like I know many of us have. I'm like, oh, like this is going to make it so much easier for the star family, soul family, for visitation, for contact, for communication. Like now it's like, maybe that's not why all this is happening, but it's a fringe benefit. I was like, oh, I kind of got this like, oh, maybe all this is happening so we can just really sit and listen to our star family talking to us.
So, yeah, obviously there's always multiple meanings, multiple purposes, no doubt. Like concentric circles, there's all these intersections on the curves, right? But yeah, I have so much respect for your birth of knowledge and your intuitiveness and the combination of it all. And you're down to earth too. And I can't believe you are the age you are with kids at home and doing all this at the same time. But I'm just curious from your standpoint on that subject of interstellar, intergalactic communication and all its methods. How deep do you think that's going to go? I mean, obviously, and correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, whether it's an individual or a collective, they have to, speaking of the human hybrids, they have to raise their frequency in order to even be available for, I guess, communication of any clarity at all. So, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is that seems to be happening. Do you think we'll see more of a presence that's not just unique to individuals, but that is seen on a broader scale by a more collective audience, with more collective acknowledgement?
I don't know. It's all, to me, like all the contact, or
Mhm.
even like, I kind of loathe the term disclosure, but all that's happening in the inner field, in the inner space. It's all like one by one. It's all um
You mean in the
like
inner?
yeah, like all the
So,
intercell. So the stuff, like as I see it, I think a lot of even like scientists can get behind the Carl Sagan, like we are star stuff, the Joan Baez, like we, the all carbon and nitrogen molecules that are here on planet Earth that make planet Earth were
yeah,
born in a star far, far away.
yeah.
Like nobody would really argue with that, scientist or mystic, right? So like that stuff is encoded in the cells. And when people talk about DNA being like a crystalline projector or crystalline action, like the photonic communication quality of the cells of your body are able to, like when you turn on your crystalline DNA, it acts like a projector or like a holographic, like Star Trek. Can we talk Star Trek Next Generation? Like you go to your holodeck and you program it, and like what adventure you want to have on the other side. Like your DNA is projecting the reality that you live in all
So
the
you're,
time.
just want to be clear. So you're saying that, and I love that analogy because I'm not a Star Trek person, but I know what you're talking about. So they go to the holographic deck. This is a physical imagery of what you're saying we do or can do consciously. So we in our field go to our holographic deck. We can actually program our DNA, therefore program our experience. Is that right?
We are all doing it. It happens with every word that you speak, with every thought that you think, with every action that you take. That whole, your words create your reality.
Yeah.
That's like the tech behind, like, how is that real? Or even what was that movie that was going around? Not the What the Bleep, but the Secret.
Yeah.
Many years ago, that like was really new information and like woke up a lot of people of like, whoa, that's like, can I create my own reality? Like, yes, you are. And you're doing it every second. This goes back to the freedom codes, right? Maybe unlocking the freedom. It's like a moment by moment choice. Like, watch your words. Like a simple thing like,
Great subject.
my family's in lockdown versus my family's home and happy and safe. Like those two phrases say program a very different thing out into your reality.
And do you think too, this is a great subject. We'll get back to the list in a second. But like, I mean, we know everything's been heightened now. Our sensitivities, our awareness, even if you're quote unquote asleep or ignoring things, you've got to be affected by the overall expansion of the collective energy. But I would think that it is so important for us to guard our thoughts. And yes, we're not going to be able to flip a switch, but we can create a more aligned trajectory each and every moment. But I would think it's so important now because there seems to be more power in our energy. And would you say that at the end of the day, when it comes to interstellar communication, intergalactic communication, other enhanced skills and abilities that are natural to our nature, that there's a direct relationship between the accessibility and availability of those things in regard to our own cleaning up our own shift, basically removing these blockages and these veils within ourselves that are basically illusions of labels, roles, traumas, things that take away from uh, our own awareness of ourselves, of our true selves. Would you say that there's a direct relationship between that in regard to that inner verse that you were talking about in relationship to the external?
Absolutely. I feel like over the last month, I've been aware of my sensory field and my senses being like almost like stripped down and recoded, recalibrated, and expanded. Like take the sense of smell. There was like I had some congestion with some situations, and then after that, like I've always had like a super sniffer, but like we all have the clairs as they call them, or like your extrasensory perception, your senses are what your interface with the world is too. So like the sense of smell has been massively heightened for me. I even had like a process that was going on with my legs. My legs were doing this thing where like they were really, my feet were really cold. Like at night, they were like these heat things. Like I was like, oh, my like ability to like touch and sense the earth with my feet has got like completely recoded in the last month. The heart field and lung field and out to the hands. Woof. That's like what's going on right now in this global reset for a lot of us. And then the whole pineal, like the sight thing. Like a lot of this, like we were talking about that sacred geometry, light code, receptor sites.
I don't know if you're referring to like just like right now in the present or the very recent past, but the pineal really seems to be stepping up in the last few days to me. Like I'm just saying on a personal level. Is that something that you think that's happening on a broader scale? I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I mean I've noticed it. I can't really explain it, but it feels like to me is I wouldn't even say it's just the third eye. It's actually, it feels like there's a third lens added to the two that I have, and it's almost like a pinpoint laser type of thing that's happening. Like that's the closest I can come. Does that ring a bell, or is that something that you're aware of?
Like a collective pineal upgrade happening?
Like
Absolutely,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you were glasses wearer. I just happened to put my contacts on, which I haven't been wearing much, but like the eyes, like the human eyes, you want to say like we have trouble seeing, but like when the human eyes get recoded, like my glasses broke, like a bad time for glasses to break. It was like the little screw came out from the side of my glasses and one of my lenses popped off. And I was like it was almost like I wasn't supposed to be wearing, and I couldn't, the vision, and especially in my left eye was very just different. Like it went through a whole phase of things like fuzzy, and then I was like, oop, now it's like it's back. Like, but that's like, so like sometimes it's a whole, it's people are getting headaches.
Yeah.
People like the whole thing, this whole zone. It is like a projector.
Now,
You were talking about like you're getting like new like I call it light body technology. It's like we're getting new systems and new geometric codes, like new things put in place into the field.
I find it amazing to be able to have a conversation with you, and you're so centered and balanced, calm, cool, and collected. There's no talk about, oh my God, there's a virus out there. Oh my God, let's go jump on the Q bandwagon. I mean, there's just this levelness, and I know there's others out there. I enjoyed talking to Sandra the other day about it. Lori Ladd was very much in that same, and it feels like to me, it feels like, and not in the old way of the term I'm going to use, but almost like a power surge of the true great mother frequency, the divine feminine frequency, like the one that's been holding down the fort and is now starting to deliberately, steadily just come out and as everything gets basically deconstructed. That's
We're in the if you're in the cocoon, you know what happens to the caterpillar when it goes in the cocoon, right?
No.
It turns goo. So like when a caterpillar will chrysalis or cocoon itself, and then completely dissolve. It like literally turns to goo in there, and then reforms into the butterfly.
I thought you said do for a minute.
Well, that
Yeah.
too. But
Well,
so going back to the freedom codes, like
You gotta go through the
this
shift to make
process,
the shift, right? Huh? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
like this process that we're in now, certainly we're in a global cocoon, stay
Okay.
home, stay cozy zone for sure. And we're in the goo phase. Like everybody's getting completely stripped down, and we can all feel, I don't have to explain that. We're all in it. But then like it feels like I did put this on Facebook, maybe it was last month, whenever it was, but I had this clear transmission too of like, oh, what's going to happen when this cocoon phase that we're in is that a lot of us are going to unlock the freedom codes, like going back to a moving about the planet life, or like that, the freedom codes are going to come on the other side of this cocoon phase. And that's sort of why I started the story with the 4th of July last year. It may coincide quite well with, that July time again. And I think people are going to really just appreciate and reprioritize, and that feeling of like, oh yeah, that freedom, like the freedom expression.
Yeah, there seems to be, well, I don't know, I'll go beyond that. There has been enough evidence. If I go back just like the last 3 years, 2 to 3 years, as the I guess as a linear calendar rolls, there seems to be the same energy enhanced the next year. You know what I mean? Like Easter 3 years ago was at this level, and then but the same types of energy. It's just more enhanced. So I think the point you made about July is very, very relevant. What about Easter? What are you feeling about this weekend? Where are we at right now?
I think the goo stage is pretty prevalent. Like I know a lot of people are talking about other things, but that, like, can we really get still and present and like strip a lot of, for me and my crew, it's come with like just letting go of a lot of things. Even like our school's awesome and they're doing Zoom school right now, and it was just causing such a friction factor with me and the kids. And it was like, oh, we're unschooling, we're unplugging, we're like doing less communication. We're like,
I like that. You're not homeschooling, you're unschooling.
when I figured out that if I let everyone wake up and do their thing as they wanted to do it, then I could do my thing. Like, woo, at home. Like it's supposed to like, oh, we got 9 a.m. We got to like get on the, it's like, you're still on the wheel. If you're still on the wheel, I'm not suggesting people not do whatever works for your family, but
I just realized what you said though. You're not only are you doing everything you're doing and have the kids, but now you have the kids at home. I didn't even think about that till you said that. But I love
all right, I'm laughing for parents everywhere. I have a 5-year-old that's like, the kids are like, and the kids are experiencing this in a whole different way too, of like that freedom. Like I'm not sure if it was Sandra said this in her broadcast with you, or if it was in her grid workers gathering that she did, but she was talking about the schools closing down, like every place where things could be like siphoned off, or where energy might be being depleted, or any like control mechanisms, they all had to shut down for a while so that could all stop and dismantle.
Well, I think about if you just take, because the kids frequency, even though they're not mature, by human standards or whatever, but their energy is much more pure. So therefore it's much more aligned. It hasn't been damaged as much or conditioned as much. And I think about the energetic force of pulling them out of school, like your kids are a perfect example. So but to me, the energy of what we see as these children actually being freed up, talk about freedom codes, and then what they emit through their joy and their happiness. Say, hey, I don't have to follow this schedule. Hey, I can go out and play. Hey, you know what? I can do what I want to do when I want to do it. wow, and then to think that that's happening all over the world, that energy's got to be impacting this transition in a
It's
big way.
it's
Got to
pretty it's pretty powerful to see. Like my
Yeah.
daughter said to me yesterday, because I was anyway, I know we're not going to talk about it too much, the stuff, but like it's been what you talk about with a 5-year-old in the context of what's going on globally is different than when you talk about with a 10-year-old or 11, right? But I was saying something because she had her feelings like the last week or two. And then yesterday I was like, are you having, whatever? She's like, no, mama, like, remember all those times where like, I just wanted to stay home with you and play and I didn't want to go to school and I just wanted to stay home and play. She's like, this is my time. And the way she said, if I could like this is my time. And my son feels the same way. They're like, Mom, when are we ever going to get this chance to just like chillax? I was like, yeah, right. When are we ever going to get this chance to chillax? And of course, respect to all the people that the reality is not that right now. Like I know a lot of people are working extra and there's all that component too. And it's a
lot of different roles.
Like a privileged state to be.
But that's freedom code that they're experiencing and expanding. This is my time.
Yeah, this is like she's like, this is my time. The way she said the word "my" was like broadcast. Right. So like going back to like the broadcasting of the freedom codes, like Todd, that's for me. I've always seen that as your network here, your platform, like what you've been doing is that like you broadcast, right? So going back to like the towers and maybe the like Tesla free energy thing and the like repurposing that like the broadcast network that we're all like the love, light, freedom, soul juju, like that that's what I've always admired about you is like you're all about it, but you're like in the trenches of the broadcast system and like you're like the codes, the words you speak, the guests you have on, it's like Soulology is cutting edge in that, in my opinion. And many other people like you, like that are doing these broadcasts. It's great.
We all got a role to play. So you mentioned a little while ago about your crew, your posse. Now, are you talking about incarnated human beings or non-physical family or both?
For sure, both. But I was talking about other grid workers and light workers that are in this geographical region and beyond.
How the hell did you find those people in your region?
Well, I think a lot of us met through Indicro Academy, through Katie.
Okay, cool.
And have just kept, like through a lot of us trained with her. That's how you and I met, right? A few years ago. She's one of the people, she's definitely involved in this broadcast network action and crystalline network stuff. That a lot of us have like come through her school and graduated and moved on and doing our own things and still keep in touch. But I also have a whole crew of people I'm in Lisa Brown's master monthly group. So there's a bunch of us that meet through there. Sandra had a little bit of a grid workers network thing for a little while, maybe 2 years ago. Facebook.
Yeah. Would you say Facebook. That you've had your time and your tenure in the Crow? Then you mentioned Lisa, and I know as long as I've known you, a couple of years or more, that you've been engaged in that. And then of course you mentioned Sandra, and I'm sure there's probably others. Do you find that most of the people that are engaged in that or have been engaged in that have been feminine?
I never really thought about it.
I guess
no, I mean, well, there's a prevalence of
like
female bodies, but
like the typical light worker community, I mean, but
I don't know that I would say that Lisa or Sandra have particularly feminine energy.
No. I mean,
or Katie, actually. They're all pretty masculine feminines. So
I'm not going to comment on that. I'll say Sandra's a little bit different than the other two. I'll say that.
I don't really look at. I don't do the masculine feminine thing that much.
Yeah, where I was going with it. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm still a little. I've got to get. So where I was going with it was the makeup of the community let's say in each one of those examples probably matches the typical light worker group or whatever, 80-20, 70-30. It's gotten more masculine have come in now, but I guess what I'm saying is, are you finding that these little crews, these crews that you're referring to, these people you stay in contact with, are they mostly women? And are they starting to step up now? Do you think they'll be stepping up now? Because I got to imagine they have a lot of sacred wisdom and code that they're carrying. And we all know that that energy has been reluctant to step up for, you know, for understandable reasons with all the suppression and such over the thousands of years and such. But do you see that happening?
Yeah, so did you watch the Hung and Tien's Dragon's Mouth show a couple nights ago? Did you get a chance?
No, I didn't. I didn't see one a couple nights ago. I've watched a few of them, but I didn't see one a couple nights ago. What were they
So
talking?
Tien pulled at the end. He pulled the cloak card,
Yeah.
and what they were talking about at the end of that, I'm going to bring back around because that was really for a process for all of us, like individuals. I got the very strong message from the universe in January before what we're in right now started, really, of like, it's time to show up and show yourself and be more visible, and not like, as I have a, you know, like for my regular, like Hung calls it the muggle life, you know, like,
Yeah.
because I'm like on the board of trustees at my kid's school, and I'm like the treasurer, like I have like these roles that I don't always pull out, like, oh, I'm talking to Sasquatches, or oh, Orion's belt is like, you know, I compartmentalize a little bit for myself of like where I talk about certain things. And I got the very strong message of like, it's time that has to all dissolve. Like like it has to, you just have to show up as you are. And if they, you know,
like having
like over that, like I think everyone is being, a lot of us are being called to like be more visible, to be more brave and sharing, and to be more authentic across board. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, and that's a great point. And I think a lot of times when we think about part of being, well, I don't even like to use the word authentic. I think it's been overused, but to be raw and real, direct. We think of being direct in conversation, but I think what you're talking about is actually goes bigger than that. It's the energy of directness. Like, you know, you're not here to hide anything. It's kind of like the whole, you know, I've had a lot of friends that have had 2 Facebook profiles, one for their family and friends and one for their, you know, pseudonym in the light working community, but a lot of them dropped it. And I think that's what you're referring to, no doubt. Now, what about like your relationship with the universal? Are there particular, and I know I probably asked you this before, but we're in a little deeper space now. Are there particular things that you have an affinity for that communicate with you, that may be more specific in orientation to the type of things that you're doing on the earth, the roles that you're playing, you know, like, you know, particular planetary systems, planets, star family, that type of thing?
Yeah. That's a broad topic, but the things that pop through. So I think for any one of us, back to that, like what's coded in your DNA, like we have different soul aspects, and maybe these soul aspects, we have the access to lots of different galactic situations. But for me, I hear from a lot of different, like if I wanted to sit down and be a channel and like channel this and that and this, I could do that I do that. I could do that very easily. But when you want to dial in to like specific actions or specific, I don't want to say races, but specific frequencies, the ones I've been hearing from this year the most loudly are part of what I call the Venusian collective, like from the planet Venus. You know, Venus has been very visible for all of us. And I talked a bunch about it last time you had me on, but particularly like 3 different collectives from the Venus. And I don't mean these people like come from Venus or live on Venus or dwell on Venus, like where I see the planets and even some stars like the Pleiadian. If people are coming from, say, deep space, they make like outposts, if you will, like energetic places where they can hang out in our solar system to communicate with us better, be it portals or be it openings. So through the Venus portal, I've been communicating with three very different branches, if you will. One is the Tesla Collective.
Okay.
These, like we were talking about, the engineers, the technology people. Another one is the Hathors, or the sound code producers, like the Hathors or Elohim. They always appear to me as like these tall white column, you know, that, and that through I have a lot of sycamore trees, or for my UK friends, the plane trees, like tall white trees come through that way. And then, so I was lucky enough to have booked, I did a private one-on-one session with Sandra Walter in February, and she helped me bring through this last, because I could feel a third one. And it was like, I was so delighted that you put the googly eye on your picture when we started the show. But another set was like the Venusians, and what she saw them in my field, and it really helped bring them through for me, was like the headband with like a crystalline thing, like sort of in the middle, like a third eye. They're the collective, and I haven't talked to them enough, or I'm still working on it or figuring it out for inside myself, but they're like the pineal projector crew. They're like the sacred geometry light code crew. But, you know, some might call them Ashtar Command or this or that. Like everyone has names for them. But you know, their own, like, you know, like Magenta Pixie is like the White Wing Collective. That's the same thing as Elohim, or as the tall white ones I'm talking about. But people have like familiar terms, you know. Does that make any sense? So I've been hearing from these three from the Venus portal, if you will, very loudly this year. And they have a lot of things. Sasquatch talk to me all the time. That's a whole, like I talk with them, not like in a hairy, smelly beast way, but more in like a tall, giant Orion column way.
No, they're definitely. Well, and see, I can see that as you're pushing. You know, the telepathic field is becoming more clear. You know, I mean, we're understanding that we're picking up so much more than just having a conversation back and forth. It's almost like becoming, you know, it's being secondary. But so, like, I'm listening to you, and I can totally get that, and I see some crossover, like the third energy complex you were talking about with the pineal gland. That really resonates with me. I really feel that, and I know it's not just me, but I can feel what you're saying. You know, I can almost see him standing there. You know, but
so when I go back to the towers, and I was like, because we kind of said, you know, it might be nice at some point if I feel like sharing more or teaching more to other people to do that skill, but like that's that collective. It's like these like shapes, like you can like broadcast sacred geometrical shapes and wrap things in them, like what a lot of us are doing in New York City over the equinox, and like different, like you can project out geometric code that is light language. It's just not through the mouth, it's like through the pineal. But that collective's here to like teach us or reawaken that stuff we already know how to do inside.
I mean, and that's why I said that well, not only that subject we could do, and we will, if you're open for it, we'll try to do a whole show on some of these subjects, like the platonic solids and what you're talking about here. But just as a quick kind of a dip into it, how would a person, so you have the information, let's say, on the platonic solids, or you have something inside of you pops in your head, and you have a desire or thought about light language and receiving it and speaking it or whatever. How would a person go about knowing how to make that connection? Do they have to seek somebody else out? Can they do it themselves? Can it all be done on their own? Do we need, in this time of transition, to you know, seek out other people to assist us?
What a great question. So really the answer is no, of course we don't. Like we can all do it individually and do it for ourselves. I can just speak from my own personal, I think the biggest stopping point or blocking point is just trusting yourself enough to like really allow it, or to really not think you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, or to like really be okay with it. And I think other people as mirrors, like for hearing from other people, for me, the confirmations help a lot with the like self-trust. I've gotten to a point now where I can do it in my own flow.
Yeah.
But could I have gotten here as quickly without all the teachers and mentors and helpers that I've had along the way? I'm not sure. So like my style has always been whatever I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
Like when I was learning to do composting toilets and wash water gardens and evapotransport, like I just go to the feet of the masters and like listen to what they have to say and like spend as much time with them as you can for a more rapid
Yeah,
path.
absolutely.
You know, like I mean, talking about human and both.
Oh, no, I get what you're saying. And then
Or like
also,
when the Sasquatch first started, like when I first started hearing from them a few years ago, I definitely sought out, you know, Kelly Labyrinitis. She was on your show last year or 2 years ago. Like talking to her about things was super helpful.
Yeah.
Because it's like, is this, you know, I think a lot of, for me, it's been like, is this, any of this really happening? Like, am I really talking to stars? Am I really hearing from the Hawthorns and Sasquatch? And this, like, it's a thing to like get used to.
I love
And talking to other people helps you get used to it.
I love that you say that. Yeah. I think if anything, you know, like if anything, when Morgan implanted this in the physical anyway, because it was done long before that, but I mean, implanted the idea of this place to share information and experiences and all that stuff. To me, that's what this serves. You know, this community service serves the most, is being able to have conversations. Because to your point, I mean, I'm talking to you. I live with someone who's been doing it 20 plus years. I've talked to many other people, even people like Victoria Lillenquist, even people that started in the earlier times. Had a lady on the other day, started in the late 60s. But there's always that element of doubt, you know, there's always that second guessing, like, am I really nuts? You know, and we've all gone through it. I went through it, you know, and you can have these apparitions and you can have these divine activations and these incredible, unarguable synchronicities and validations, and you still wake up going, oh, is this shit even real? You know, so that's a great point. For no other reason, really, there's more, but I'm just saying, if for no other reason than what you said, and that is to actually talk to somebody who lives in with a foot in both worlds, I guess is another way to put it. Yeah.
Or when I told you I had that private session with Sandra, she was like, you need to share it because you need to light ground it. Like part of like, because it can live in my own head, but like this is why I enjoy talking to you. Like it's more real if you speak it. It's more real if you write it down and share it on Facebook. It's more real if you make a video about it. Yeah. You're bringing it more into the tangible world by speaking. Like what's the great benefit of having this conversation with you is like I get to bring my work more, not just to share it with other people, but to bring it more into this plane of existence by speaking about it. Like you can have these fantastical things. Yeah. But if you don't have anyone to share it with, it's less
well, I think one of the reasons that I find your what's the word? It's not just frequency, it's the delivery or the emanation of your code. So, you know, I don't know. It just resonates very deeply for a couple of reasons. One, because I think the time is right, and two, you started the show talking about your process of working with the towers and such, and that you graduated to another level, and you no longer even do that anymore. Not to take away the importance of it, but I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a big difference between relaying your experience, like Sandra's saying, hey, you really want to anchor this stuff? Speak it. And I think there's one of the reasons she's very effective and you resonate so much is because you're not telling people you got to do this and you got to do that. You're not saying I am this and I am that and you better listen to me. You're saying, here's my experience, here's what I know. And, you know, I'm 50 years old, I've got kids at home, I do all this stuff, and I wake up in doubt every day. And I still work through it. Thank you for having a conversation with me, and I feel less crazy today. But I mean, you know what I mean? It's like a multi-dimensionality, multi-humanality integration of no bullshit, down to earth, But yes, I'm a cosmic multidimensional being. And I got to say that this is that feminine energy that I was referring to, not to make any differentiation between physical genders so much, but the majority of the predominant feminine energies are in female bodies. And we all know that they've been suppressed and standing in the background, but doing the work. And I think Sandra's right. And I think this is what we're going to see now is these primarily these women stepping up. And it's a game changer, no doubt. So thank you.
And thank you. And thanks for having a platform for some of us. Like it's, for other people that are burgeoning to do it too, it can be scary as heck to like do it, It's like you just gotta pull it off and do it.
Yeah.
Decloak.
Well, and the other thing I notice about this energy that I'm trying to, having struggle to put words to is that it doesn't, not only does it stand in the background all these years and do this work, but also it stands in the background almost not wanting the attention. And I guess part of that being that they're not, it doesn't seem to be as susceptible to the challenge to the egoic, the challenge to the egoic that these powerful episodes and transmissions and downloads and such channelings can have, the effect they can have on the human part of us. And this is, I think, something that's very much needed because that's an emanation without comparison, without competition, without control. It's just that mother energy, like here it is. I want to wait for you all to get your shit together and I'll be here. Kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I just got it. Thank you for that last piece. I get now what you're talking about, the vibration. Like it's just the showing up and doing it. But I put this well. There's a whole bunch of sharers that share like do this now, like that people want to be told what to do. And like that, like guru disciple teacher student thing is a thing, but that's like dissolving away for sure. Yeah. And there's like a much more like I want to, for myself, even I struggle with this as a teacher or as a sharer. It's like you want to empower people to find their own unique way to do it. Like, and it's not let me show you, like, I'm not going to open the Julie Roberts School of Healing and teach people this method that's named after me. That's, more power to them if that's their path. But like, that's happening everywhere, right? Like this is but it's more like, how can we support each other? So that group of grid workers that I get to chat with and, we Facebook message each other and support each other and like send pictures of things. And like, I'm so blessed to have all of them in my circle. And hi to all of you that are here now. It's like, we like just check in with each other and be like, do you see, like, one of my friends that was doing some great work had this, like, she sent me a picture and I wrote back like, oh, that's the Veritas Council. And she was like, yeah, I just had called that, and we're like, we see things in each other's photos that just kind of give that like, oh yeah, this is like, yeah, you're unlocking the sun discs down in like Mexico City, or you're doing that, you're doing these works, and like just to be seen and see each other and to just offer the right comment at the right time is like our way of community and supporting each other. And
yeah, it is. And I noticed this just being with Morgan, listening to some of the stories from before we met, and then observing things since we've been together. And I'm talking about this sisterhood frequency, where there is that network of, hey, what's going on with you, and things matching up all at the same time, and these kind of non-physical threads that are brought together, and then the human aspects can confirm. I think that's been a really powerful thing that's been occurring for a long, long time without any notice, So there's a huge, and I did a show yesterday. It was actually something we'd never done. This sister came on, and she's a remote healer, very powerful. So we tried it, and there was 100+ people came in, and she was doing, assessments and healing on them. But what really jumped out to me was the number of women that came in the door. And as they would come on and just say a little bit, you know how you can pick up so much from not what they're actually saying, but their frequency, at least, you know, we all have our abilities. But what I was getting was these, you know, a couple of them spoke light language, just like, you know, oh, not, they didn't say, oh, I'm going to do light language. They just started going into it.
Mhm.
Like I saw something happening. And what I saw was there's a huge network of these sisters around the world that tune in and don't even identify themselves until there's an open forum like that and they can come on, you know, because the last thing they want to do is, but you know, it was really interesting. And I think this is really starting to show itself. And
Yeah,
it's
back
about,
to your question, like the light language is a great example, or like turning on your Merkaba. Like there have been these like everyone could do that on their own for themselves. Everyone can speak light language. That
yeah,
like, you know, that's like some people do it in drawing, some people do it in that elfish language, you know, that like we can all do that. Like we could do it in the projection I was talking about with the light codes, but that like your way of turning your own on
yeah,
is the way, you
I
know?
know.
Like
I,
there's not a lot of it used to be all these like systems in schools and you got to do this to do that and then you like, you know, that
I think that's the part to me that's going away.
yeah, that's like all like you
It's
don't
all
have to
going
do any
away.
of that.
Yeah, like, you know,
What
was it
chills a deck, blah blah blah. You know, just do your thing.
the full
Your
moon
way's
was
as valid as mine, you
the
know?
full moon was out 2 nights ago, and I'd gone through like 3 days of massive physical stuff happening, like inner universe and interstellar. It was all pretty wild, and I ended up building a fire in the back, taking my clothes off, and I started going into light language. I was laying on the ground, you know, I was immersing myself in the smoke. I'm like, and the next day I'm thinking, what the hell did I what? And I had like Mongolian throat music in my ears,
Mm-hmm.
dancing, dancing, you know, with all my junk hanging out. I was just like, the next day I was like, okay, but what you're saying is true. It's true. It's we. That's I think part of the infinite uh, connectivity is uh, you know, trusting that spontaneity and that intuitiveness to tap into that creativity because it's all kind of, you know, intertwined. You know, there's power in this. There's so much power.
Yay.
Did you freeze? Okay.
No, I
So,
didn't freeze. I just smiled. You know, I'm not to be your like I'm doing the
no,
mom energy. If it's 1:30 now, Todd.
oh, I know. Oh, no,
I could talk to you all day and I would
no,
love
no,
to talk to you.
it's
You said you
1:20
needed a
now.
half an hour off, right?
Yeah. Now, officially 1:30. I just saw it flip. So, I used to have an office in Worcester, and
You did no, really?
yeah, I thought I told you that.
I don't
Yeah,
think so.
yeah, I worked for a company. I won't mention any names, and our biggest market was the Northeast, and I was running about half. Well, I was running two of the four divisions, but I was running about
Oh.
75% of the company, and our Northeastern office was based in Worcester. So I spent
Oh,
a lot of time there, 2000, 2001,
really?
2002, flying in and out of Logan when 9/11 hit with an Arabic last name. So that made it pretty difficult for a while. But
Uh-huh.
but anyway, the reason I'm bringing that up is because it's a very beautiful area, and it's not cold anymore. I don't know where we're going. I know we'll get direction soon, and hopefully we'll come up that way and
Yeah,
come
come
have
on
a
up.
visit. Yeah, come have
Worcester is the, you know, the so like they call Worcester the heart of the Commonwealth or the heart of New England because we're right in the center.
yeah. That's why we located there.
That's cool.
We had a huge operation out there, about
Oh
55.
wow, we've never talked about that. That's cool.
Mhm. Yeah, we had a lot of business out there. So yeah, I'd love to
Yeah,
hook
come
up.
on up.
Yeah,
We'll find you a spot to light in.
we'll
I hear
figure
there's
something.
lots of Airbnbs empty right now.
That's what I heard. Yes, the Sandy was like, okay. Well, I love you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
Yeah, and all blessings to you and your family, and thank you so much for the work that you do and all the people that work with you. And I look forward to collaborating again. Hopefully, in the next 2 or 3 weeks would be cool with me
Sure,
because
anytime.
yeah, you got a lot of information that I think people need to be exposed to. And no, she's not in Canada, honey. She's in Boston. Boston,
Massachusetts. I'm a
Boston,
masshole.
a mess. Oh my God, I got to tell you a quick story. So when I first went to Worcester,
Worcester. You got to say it right, Todd. Worcester.
Worcester. Well, you know, when I go to
Worcester.
the bar, when I go to the bars over there, I can get the dialect down. That's a true story. But so the first time I went to Worcester,
You can say it however you want. I'm just teasing.
I'm a big. I tried to. I didn't. I say it right. Worcester. Worcester. First time I went to Worcester, I love seafood, right? And so we went, and I didn't usually eat lunch either in the corporate world because it would make me tired. But I had to go to lunch, take all my managers to lunch, right? So we go to this place, and they had either 1, 2, or 3 lobsters on special. 3 lobsters were, I want to say, $15.99. And I thought, holy shit, are you kidding me, right? So we went there a couple days in a row, and I'm saying this because of the what you just said about that regional epithet or slang or vulgarity describing the. So I went, and the lady was like, the waitress was like, she was a bitch, man, you know. And then we went, and I'm always a big tipper, so because I believe in that. And then the next day I went back, and it was the same way. And then I went to a couple other restaurants, and it was the same way. And I didn't realize that's just the way people communicate. They don't mean anything by it. It's just, and it's so weird to see that type of contrast, not only in the language dialect, but in the cultural. You know, I'm from the South, and it's yes, ma'am, yes, sir, and opening doors, and you know, and all that stuff. So, but it's a beautiful place, and it's a very powerful, magical, spiritual, you know, kind of super highway too, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think it is.
I ride it every day. I ride that cosmic highway every day.
Yeah, I know you do. Well, you take care. I'll see you
Todd.
soon. Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.